Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Dwayne Lewis here from Grace Maddison Media, and I've got with me today my favorite IT recruitment consultant, Allison Worsfold. Allison, how are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Last week of the summer holidays.
Yes, it is. All the kids are going back to school. I think one just passed you by in the
Yeah,
background. It's okay. I'm not going to edit
it,
that out. I think it'll add to the authenticity of the video. Now,
okay, it's a
before
bit
we
like
get
Where's
into
Wally?
Where's Wally? Yeah. Now, before we get into this, I just want to say a big congratulations because you passed the 13,000 mark in terms of followers. Congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you.
you want to give me some tips on how I can improve my social media following, maybe?
I don't know really. Just be quite active,
Okay.
genuine, which you are.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you're obviously a very likable person. Everything you do, you're putting the value out there. More importantly, folks, if you're listening, I think one of the reasons that's contributed to your large following is that you are constantly helping people. And although we didn't speak last week, I have been watching what you've been doing, like the contractors. There was this thing that a really great post about the IR35, some of the changes that were happening. You posted some information, useful advice. You were covering anxiety, how people can deal with anxiety, and you were going back to some of the tips that your mom gave you, and I think that's just absolutely brilliant. And it's just really, really nice for you to be consistently putting out the value and not just looking at helping people find work and also giving value to the employers. So, and in that context, today what we're going to be focusing on are the job seekers. And one of the most important elements of the job campaign is actually, once you've done all your homework, is preparing for an interview. So it's in that context, I'd like to hand over to you. And if you can just nicely tell everyone, what things they can do to prep for an interview. Over to you.
Sure. Thanks.
You're
Yeah, so
welcome.
I think you nailed nail on the head there a little bit when you said about preparation. So obviously preparing for the interview is key. But how do you prepare for interview? Apologies again for any children activity in the background.
No
Fine,
problem.
well, my children have a play date as well, so it's busy. So yeah, basically, I mean, some of the obvious things, which may not be obvious to everyone, but is look on the company website. You can do Google the company. You might find some news reports about the company as well. I do have some clients, for example, that have bad press, so it might be something that you want to discuss with the company at interview stage to see how they're handling it and whether it's true, and find out the facts on things like that as well. You should. There's lots of information online about how to prep for an interview. I do have an interview prep sheet, both a telephone and a face-to-face one, if people are still doing face-to-face. If anybody wants a copy of that, just drop me a message. But things like looking at who your interviewer is going to be. Normally you are provided with the interviewer's details. You can look them up on LinkedIn, check on their position, check their background. You may have something in common that you could talk about there. There's, generally speaking, you'll have a line manager interview and a HR interview. Could be at the same time. I'm talking more long-term lines here. So one maybe first, one maybe second, they might be at the same time. HR generally want to talk to you about more the soft skills, whereas a hiring manager will probably want to talk to you about technical skills.
The next thing that you could do is think about your selling points. So why you want the job, why you've applied for the job, and why you're good for the job. So use your job spec for that, and you can compare your skills across because they may well ask questions relating to the job spec. For example, if it says in there they're looking for a team player, they may ask you for an example of when you worked as a team. And then you can pre-think of an example of that, because I don't know about you, but if I'm on the spot and someone says, when have you worked as a team, I'm just going to bumble and think of a terrible example, and then later I'll think, oh, I wish I've got a brilliant example, I wish I'd said that. So try thinking of preempting questions. Hopefully your recruiter will know the client and probably have had candidates on the interview there and taken feedback from those candidates who'd had the interviews and asked them what the questions were they were asked, and they'll be able to give you a bit of a heads up on what questions were asked before. For example, I had a client that would only ever focus on agile experience in the interview. That was all he was interested in asking about. So I'd prep my candidate, say, look, make sure you're up to speed on agile. He's going to ask you a lot about agile. The next thing you could do is you can anticipate any concerns you might think they're going to have. So let's say you have been out of work because of COVID. A lot of people are really anxious about having the big gap on their CV. First of all, don't worry too much about that. But second of all, you can anticipate that. That's an example. You may have other things on your CV. You may think, actually, they're going to ask me about this.
Any other tips? Preparation advice?
Preparation. I mean, there's another obvious one again, which is similar to what I've mentioned before, is just preparing for common interview questions. Again, you can simply find those on Google if you Google interview questions, and then practice your answers. So when you get asked a question, you're not stumped.
Okay.
Some people might just breeze through interviews, but if you're like me, I'm like a deer in headlights when you ask me a question, and I have to think about it.
Okay. Well, Alison, thank you very much for that. So just to recap then, so what we're looking at is obviously you need to do your due diligence. You need to research, try to find out as much information about the company. You need to, if you can, anticipate questions and have your answers ready. Think about how you would work in different scenarios, like if you're working in a team. Also important is getting to know the person or finding out as much about the person who's actually going to interview you. That information can be found either on LinkedIn or some other social media platform. Find out if there's any common ground, then try to work that into your interview. I think it's also important to try to relax, try to get a feel for the culture of the company so that you can, tailor your approach to that culture so that it'll give you a better chance of obviously being remembered and also getting yourself hired. One thing that I like to do when I was back in the job market many, many moons ago is also ask for the job, because not many people do that. I know it's a little cheeky, but it doesn't hurt, I think, if you just ask for the job. Okay. So we've come to our conclusion. Once again, thank you very much for your time. As always, the value was well received. I hope, a lot of people and potential employers and candidates are connecting with you, Alison, because you have just so much to offer to the industry to help people. Will you come back and talk to us again?
Absolutely.
Okay, much appreciated. Okay. On that note, listen, have a great day, and we'll speak to you again soon. Take care.
See you later.
All right, bye.